I'm not interested in the dirt stuff, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not
I'll
that
give it to
interesting.
you, baby.
There I am somewhere in Chicago. You guys come on. I watched that video. I think, who the f is this? Right? God bless STP. But he dangled you over my head.
Gosh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, no.
Look, we're the last of the Mohicans. Record labels giving us some bread for a video, and
Yeah.
I loved every aspect of the creativity, you know?
Yeah, at the time I kind of resented it, but now I realize it was actually a blessing. It's the last time there was any kind of order. Now no one in this business can tell you what success is. Welcome, the DeLeo brothers.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you believe it's been 30 years since we've been putting out some of this music? That is just a mind blower, because it just seems like yesterday that we were all on MTV and carousing about, poncing. Carefree. You know, playing, you know, D-sus chords. You know, you still got the main. See, I don't. He's got the good head of hair.
Yeah, it does seem like it wasn't too long ago. Gosh.
Right?
It's fun, man.
Yeah.
I mean, how did we? Oh, we'll get there. But I listened to a bunch of recent stuff. I've been listening to stuff as it comes out, but I went through like kind of like sequentially backwards. So your solo record, Lessons Learned, which I really, really enjoyed. You worked with a bunch of different singers.
Yes.
I didn't recognize any of the names of the singers. Did you just find people that you thought were right for the song?
Yes, friends.
Okay.
Friends that happen to be very talented
Yeah,
singers.
lots of friends. I don't have any talented friends. I don't. I was like, how does he know all these people?
Yeah, it's just finding the appropriate people for the
Yeah, really
song.
nice. And then, if I'm saying this is Perdita?
Perdita, yes.
Not quite an acoustic record, but acoustic-ish.
Yeah.
What was the logic behind that? Like,
Heartbreak.
okay.
Yeah, a lot of heartbreak. But
Was it sort of kind of a grieving?
I think so. What do you think, Dean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been something we've been wanting to do for a long time.
Was it just a kind of a public kind of, let's just work through some of these things emotionally, musically?
Yeah, I think, you know, we've always tried to incorporate, like you, incorporate, you know,
Life's tragedies into my music?
more gentle sides of our talents.
Yeah.
And I think it was time to just accumulate that all together.
Yeah, really beautiful.
Thank you.
Of course, that's Jeff Gutt singing on that record.
Jeff Gutt.
Sorry, Gutt. Sorry.
Gutt.
Gutt.
Yes.
Good. He's not Gutt. He's great.
He's good. Very good. He's great.
And then you guys somehow you don't name your albums anymore. I don't understand what this is
We ran
about.
out of names.
Okay, so STP, that album in 2018.
With Jeff.
Right.
First record with Jeff.
Yeah.
And then I kind of went back through including the High Rise EP with Chester singing. Yes. But I saw something that and I've been listening to you guys since the very beginning, but I heard something in these last few records that I go, now I get it. If I just was thinking 90s forward in your music, I always think it's the way the guitar and bass interact. Obviously it has a lot to do with your relationship, I think.
Yes.
But that vibe is what when I think SPTP, I think guitars first. Mm-hmm. Guitar, bass being guitar. I think that's always, like, the guitar always sets the tone. Oh, we're in this little weird part of America, right? Here, we're over here, we're over here. But what I heard in these, your solo record, and what I heard in Perdita was like, there's a kind of I don't want to say it's the great American songbook. I'm not talking about like Bing Crosby times, but there's a sort of Americana thing in your music that I never really picked up on before. Does that resonate the way I'm asking it?
Yeah, I think it's kind of transposed in an R&B kind of Americana way.
Okay.
So kind of a mixture of maybe a I always think of, you know, Stax comes to mind because it's kind of a southern...
I literally just interviewed Sam Moore before you came here.
Wow.
I mean, you want to talk
Sounds
about
like he interviewed you.
Well, yes. Somehow we end up talking about fake dicks, but we'll save that for another. Not every day you get to talk to Sam Moore about fake dicks.
That's a treat.
But there's this kind of, and this is my description, so please, I want yours. Mine's not important, but I get this like, it's like when you're driving on a road trip and you kind of come in an interesting part of America, you know, and it's not all the same. You know, you see a town with a little bit of a faded main street, and then you go over here and there's the dinosaur on the side of the road. And I think there's that quality in your music, this very American quality. And I don't know, road trip is the way I would describe it. You always take me to like a different place in the guitar tones. You'd always use the same guitar sound like I do. Does that make sense?
I think so.
get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So through these last couple, your record and then the Perdita, I was like, oh, the melody kind of is this American kind of melody, somewhere in between the Eagles or, I don't know, bluegrass or something.
Yeah.
And that gives the music a kind of a sinewy quality. And what I would also tell people to do is, obviously, Scott has so much to do with the way people perceive STP, but you've had these other great, credible singers, Chester being one, Jeff Gutt being another. Yet they all end up kind of bowing down into the STP aesthetic. So how does that work? Because I'm surprised, because if you just listen to a song with an original song with Jeff singing, an original song with Chester singing, an original song with Scott singing, somehow it still sounds like STP. So what is that?
I think that's because Dean and I musically, when we come up with something, there's usually a melody that goes along with it.
So you force the singers.
No. Well, Scott was great at melody.
Yeah.
He was amazing at melody. But I think sometimes you can't help but sing along with what you're writing.
But I'm saying I was surprised by that because, again, I'm a fan going back forward, meaning early music forward. So I had my own kind of version of like how you guys did what you did.
Yeah.
And you hear things from studio guys, oh, this is the way they work and stuff like this. So
Yeah.
I don't know what's true or not. What I'm saying is actually going backwards gave me insight into your music in a way that I'd never had it. And I've toured with you guys, listened to you guys play many times. And
I think it was we toured with you.
so,
that was
you
a great
guys,
tour.
you guys make it hard to follow a band.
Oh,
Let's
that
put it
was
quick.
a great tour.
It's like I'm
really.
sitting backstage warming up, and it's like hit, 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 hit.
Yeah, but you too.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Song after song.
But you guys don't have that artistic problem that I have, where you need to foist on the audience some sort of weird Bertolt Brecht drama play in the middle of the show, right? You guys are all about good time. Here's another good time. Oh, here's a heart chain. Here's a pull on your heart chains.
Yeah.
Here's another hit.
Yeah.
My show Jimmy Chamberlain always called it the art breakdown.
Yeah.
He's like, why do we need to do the art breakdown?
That's funny. That's funny.
Real quick, because I since I have you here and I've never asked you this question, is it true? Because I heard this back in the day that you used to record the tracks and then like Scott would sing on the tracks. Is that true?
Yes.
You didn't really work as a unit in making the music together, or is that one of those studio legends?
We did. We did the music. Well, a lot of stuff was written on our own too.
Yeah.
We became very good at holding the phone between our legs and playing a phone into it, And yeah, there was a lot of songs where Robert would bring or I would bring it. And then there was a lot of songs where we'd be like, oh, I got a great part for that, man.
Yeah.
And then Scott would do his thing. Scott liked going in at about 9 o'clock at night when he was good and oiled up.
Mm-hmm.
And he would sing one or two songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with, he just wanted to be alone with Brendan usually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you see that as him needing his own version of it, or did he need to be away from you? Or I'm not saying it in a negative sense. I'm saying people work in different ways. How did you take it?
I utterly respected it.
Yeah.
He just wanted to do his thing. And
Yeah.
like the last thing they needed, both him and Brendan, is me chiming in. Should he do it like this?
Yeah. He certainly had a great intuitive sense of finding like interesting nooks and crannies in rhythms and melodies.
Great, man.
Yeah.
That was one of the
amazing.
first things I noticed about him as a singer.
Yeah. And he enjoyed country music too. I mean, he grew up with country music. He could actually sing some mean Hank Williams.
I bet.
He was great at.
That's the thing about great vocalists is, and even I heard a track, I can't remember the name of it, you would know. It's like the third or fourth track on the EP with Chester where he sings, he doesn't sound like Linkin Park Chester, he sings almost like more like a choir boy.
Yeah.
I actually I was like, is this really Chester singing?
Yeah.
I'd never heard it before.
Yeah.
What a voice.
Well, I think when you get introduced into something musically that's different from what you're used to, you're going to kind of, like you said, adapt to that.
But isn't it interesting when you take a great singer like Chester or Scott, and I'm sure you saw it with Scott, where it's like, there's these other voices in the voice that you didn't know was there.
Exactly. Yes.
For me, it was always like being a singer was like, I didn't want to be a singer. I got kind of forced into it. because nobody would sing my songs.
It worked pretty well for you.
It's okay. I mean,
It worked out.
we call my voice in the wild pony because we never know what's going to come out. But I didn't want to be a singer, and my own father was a really good singer, and he didn't like my voice. So it was always this weird thing of like being put on the spot.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I'm saying is, in admiration, when I would look at a guy like Scott, I was like, oh my God, I wish I could do that.
Yeah, but
sing
you
that.
do your thing.
No, but that's the beauty of it. I had to learn to adapt to my circumstance, which is totally fine, and I don't bemoan it. But I mean, look, I was just sitting here with Gene Simmons, talking about seeing Kiss reunite Tiger Stadium '96, and Alice in Chains.
We were supposed to be on that gig.
He brought that up. He told that story.
Did he really?
Yeah, he told that story. But Alice in Chains did end up opening.
Yeah.
And obviously, Elaine was going through his troubles. And, he looked like this kind of crazy, emaciated spider in like a black cat suit, right?
Yeah.
And, the last time I'd seen Lane was backstage at a Chain show. Such a beautiful man physically, I mean, just like almost like too beautiful to be good. And then he'd open his mouth and then that voice would come out, right? Anyway, so I remember I'm on the side of the stage watching Alice in Chains do their set. And man, when Lane would open his mouth, it was like, wow, that sound. And, I'm getting chills just talking about him.
Yeah.
Scott had that too. And your guy now, Jeff, Gutt. I mean, he's got one of those voices too. I mean, it's just like the power of the voice. It's like, I'm like,
I don't know how you guys do it, man.
Yeah, really.
Well,
Especially the racket that we're making.
It's the genetics, but
Oh, my gosh.
I didn't know this because I've been doing my research here. Born in 61,
Yes, sir.
66.
Yes.
Well done.
The baby over here.
Maybe.
I don't, because I couldn't find any information. How did you get from New Jersey to San Diego?
I actually wound up in San Diego.
Yeah.
Robert kind of stayed up here.
I wound up in hell.
Is that New Jersey? Is that
No, I came out first. I came out by myself.
What age though?
18.
Okay. Was this the I'm coming to LA to live the dream?
No, it was more like I was kind of convincing my mom. It was the three of us living together. It was Dean and my mom and myself. And I was the first one out to California.
Okay.
And I was 18. And I came out with $1,200. And
Was it a musical dream thing?
no, it was just, we had a cover band. And we were playing the bar circuit in New Jersey. And I just, I was at a dead end. Our sister and brother-in-law were out in Orange County. And they said, hey, why don't you come out and live with us? So I took advantage of that. But, I was kind of trying to fool everyone and trying to make everyone, at that age, you're trying to make everyone else happy.
Yeah.
You don't really know how to make yourself happy yet at 18. But you're trying to make I'm going to go to art school and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. I couldn't hold a job. I got kicked out of my sister's house. I was on the street.
Why'd you get kicked out?
I got fired from a job and I had some girl that spent the night over at their house and they're like, you want to do that? Go to a fucking hotel. So,
I'm going to start a band.
Yes. I'm going to start a
Then I can do whatever I want.
I didn't know that happened.
Oh, yeah.
See, that's what we're here to do. Reveal reveal all
You didn't know.
What was the name of the cover band?
It was Tyrus.
TYRS.
TYRUS.
See, I had in National Wrestling Alliance, our champ last year was Tyrus.
Tyrus.
The 6'7" behemoth.
Yeah.
Oof, man.
375 pounds a man.
Oof.
My kind of man.
No fake dicks there.
No, sir. No. He's all man. I can attest to that.
Yeah.
So you kind of get the family to come out here?
No, actually, I was out here and I bought a $650 1976 Volkswagen Rabbit, and I bought a $250 1978 Music Man Stingray bass.
Yeah.
And I kind of did the couch tour. A year later.
Did you date any women who took you in kind of as the...
I did. I did
that once. It was interesting.
It's not fun. It's not fun because you feel like such a weasel.
Well, in my case, I'm still friends with the person, which is really nice. Somehow we've maintained a relationship.
That's great. Honorable.
It can happen in music.
It can
it's rare, but
it can happen. Yeah. So then Dean and take it from there.
Yeah. guess it was about 1985. Yeah, my mom and I came out, and I wound up moving to San Diego not too long after, and that's kind of where we really started gigging. There was made friends with some guys in bands down there.
Yeah.
One of which, we're going to shift gears here.
Please.
One of which, my dear friend Josh, who he was in a pretty successful band down there. They were an original band called Honey Glaze, and we did a lot of shows with them. And Josh and I did a lot of cool stuff. And Josh actually said, "Hey, man, you gotta check out this CD."
Was this Gish times or
It was
Yeah.
Gish.
91? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was just, by the way, just turned 33. Which there's another one like.
I'll
happened?
tell you, man, I was so knocked back by that.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
That CD did not leave my thing for like a week.
Yeah.
I was really just so blown away. It had elements of prog, like heavy,
We were so
Yeah.
crazy.
melancholic. You know, it was just
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was- that record, man, that really knocked me back.
So
man.
you know, because we're on the same level, I'd met Courtney Love.
Hey, I don't come to you with my problems, man.
No, but no, I'm tying in your story so I knew Courtney, I think right before Gish came out, and after Gish came out, Courtney called me and said it's unfair. It's like a second album.
Wow. Well said.
That's pretty good.
Well said.
That's pretty good, man.
That's well said. Yeah.
Yeah,
that record's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
amazing. The drum sound, that was the original Smart Studios, which they had put together totally haphazardly. One of those weird things where it was really loud in there. It sounded really beautiful. They eventually changed it and sort of destroyed what was haphazardly perfect about it. It was so loud, and it was almost impossible to record drums in there with Jimmy.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean,
Jimmy Chamberlain,
yeah,
Jimmy.
badass.
crazy.
Jimmy.
So Siamese Dream was the second record, right?
Yeah, we recorded that.
Yeah, I remember.
Marietta,
I
Georgia.
remember we were on the road, and I don't know how we got a copy of it, but we put it on the bus. We were like, "Holy cow!"
Yeah.
Yeah, we were going for it.
Did Butch do that?
Yeah, Butch
Yeah.
did that. I drove Butch plumb crazy.
We're going to start interviewing you now.
No, listen, we have an interesting conjoined history. We will get there.
Yeah.
But I have to say, let me just say,
Yeah.
you guys play heavy,
Uh-huh.
and that first record, Gish, it was the gentle moments that were like, oh,
Yeah.
they have that. That's
Yeah.
that's
Well, you guys have
really
that
what-
too, but you come at it from a different angle. But that's what I mean. There's this, even your solo record has a lot of sort of gentle SoCal
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
But when I hear that amplified through your kinetic guitar playing, that was like, oh, that's the revelation I had about your music.
Yeah.
I'd never gotten that before.
It was always sitting down with an acoustic and then taking that and turning it up to
Yeah.
10. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
was always a jazz.
But because you're always so guitar forward, though, I just assumed it's like that's the way you worked. But once I heard the other stuff, I was like, there it is. There's the secret sauce on STP. So you're down in San Diego. We played down there. I think Casbah, like
I was there.
75 people.
Okay, so I said. So I think the occupancy sign, I seem to remember this, said maximum occupancy 91.
Yeah,
This is the old Casbah.
yeah.
Dude, all I heard was guitar and cymbals.
We didn't give a.
I was there, man.
We weren't worried about you hearing the bass. Let's put it that way. But we walked into that gig. We true story. We had played Denver 2 nights before. So it's a 24-hour drive.
Yeah, big drive.
So we left Denver after a gig. Perry Farrell, Casey Nicoli, who was Perry's paramour at the time, that's on the cover of him, Nothing Shocking with him in the
Okay.
Yeah.
And Navarro showed up at our gig
in Denver. Okay.
So we meet them for the first time.
Wow.
We had played with
Yeah.
them, but I'd met Dave, but hadn't met Perry before. So meet them. Now we got a 24-hour trip, and it's a snowstorm through the mountains.
Oh, man.
So
Remember that? Yeah.
Junior, as I like to refer to myself in the third person, sometimes was like, I ain't driving. So I just took a bunch of mushrooms because I knew they wouldn't ask me to drive if I was high. So I'm tripping my brains out going through the mountains. There's like elks, it's like, so we drove 24 hours straight to get to that gig. So by the time we got to where you were, we were deadbeat tired. And then you get in front of that gig,
You were like, oh.
and you go, you drove all the night for this? What the fuck, San Diego? Like,
Right.
what is this?
Move on.
It was so small. It was the smallest gig I think we've ever played.
I think this room's bigger than the stage.
It really was one of those, like,
Yeah.
are you kidding? How do you even how do you even put 90 people in here, much as, the gear? Yeah, so, and we were loud.
Yes, you were. I was there, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good times.
That was, yeah.
Good times. So I touched upon it, but what was your perception of that music scene at the time? Because, San Diego sometimes gets the LA and then there's San Diego. Did you feel there was its own thing, or did you basically just feel it was wrapped into the LA
I didn't pay
version?
much mind to it. I thought the overall music scene was really, really nice, man. There was just some really, really nice music being made,
Yeah.
Really cool records were being made, and it was, look, we're the last of the Mohicans to kind of catch, record labels giving us some bread for a video, and I loved every aspect of the creativity,
Yeah, at the time I kind of resented it, but now I realize it was actually a blessing because it was the last time. No, but it's the last time there was any kind of order.
Right.
Now no one in this business can tell you what success is.
Right.
I think Kerslake just got done doing a video for you guys, and we were shooting the Vaseline video.
Yes.
And it was March, I think. It was cold out, cold and gray. We were off in the ocean at the airport.
Sounds
right
about
off the
right.
airport.
With Kerslake,
In that ocean scene, we're going out, and we get out. We're like, "Wow, it's cold!"
Oh,
and Kevin
it was
goes,
cold.
"Oh, I'm so sorry. The camera leaked. Can we go back out?" And I said, "I remember saying, do you remember what I said?" And I know Kevin just did one of your videos. I said, "Does Billy Corgan have to do this?"
Okay. Well, know that he took me up in the mountains above San Francisco, and it rained all night, and I froze, and I complained bitterly.
Oh, man. Wow.
Billy
Yeah.
Corgan wasn't having it.
Yeah.
But just to make sure, because I'm curious. So where'd you see yourself fitting in at that point? Because California has a way of like everybody's so laid back. Sometimes like the lack of ambition musically can kind of be shocking.
But why would I want to fit in when I was meant to stand out?
You tell me, brother. But no, but I'm saying, what was your sort of mission statement at that point? Did you have one?
Second record.
Okay.
Survival.
To be able to make a second and third, to be able to have a recording career.
Right.
That was it, man. I just wanted to keep making records.
So you were kind of there before Scott or during, or it just all kind of...
No, when the four of us were together, that was the lightning in the bottle.
Right.
Yeah. It was survival for me. I was working at Mesa Boogie on Sunset Boulevard. And,
Did I ever come in there when you were in there?
I don't think you did. I would have remembered if you came in there.
Because I didn't like Mesa Boogie.
Now that's paying dues, man.
Yeah.
Mesa Boogie on Sunset through the 80s.
If he'd only
In the
survived into the Nickelback era when Mesa Boogie was really over, then he would have had something.
There was all the hair bands still. I was there in like 88, 89.
That must have been some fun conversations.
It was a lot of dude.
Yeah, bro. Dude, bro. Yeah.
But it was kind of survival. I mean, we had those songs written, and it was funny because Scott worked across the street. He chauffeured models around. So he was across the street, and he'd run over. And Scott, he was always a little spazzy. He would do this, and he'd come over, I got this idea. And I'd pick up a guitar, and we'd kind of sit down. And it was a good thing we had there.
So he's working across the street from the Mesa shop?
He was.
Okay.
He was.
That's
It was
funny.
Lloyd's, right next to Lloyd's.
Right by Lloyd's, yeah. Vintage guitar, was it? What was
Guitar
Lloyd's?
Safari, was it?
No.
Lloyd and Alphonse.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of, we had these songs, and I think it was just a matter of having these songs we were collected and making that first record, and not really thinking about where it was going to go. I mean, getting Brendan O'Brien, we originally had Eddie Alford come in.
Okay.
Who engineered and mixed Yes.
Right, okay.
Eddie Alford.
That would have been your dream, right? I mean, you're a big Yes guy, right?
Oh, we picked his brain, man.
God. It was, that Chris Farley skit where he's sitting down with Paul McCartney?
Poor Eddie.
Chris is sitting with Paul McCartney and he goes, do you remember when you were in the Beatles? That's what it was kind of like. We were young, and Eddie was sitting there, and he'd go, all right, let's take that from the top. And we'd play a little bit, and then we'd stop, and we'd go, how did you get that sound for Chris Squire on? It was a lesson.
Yeah, on Tormato.
Yeah. Tormato. Man.
Deep.
You went
Silent
deep
Wings
right
of
there.
Freedom. Oh, yeah.
Have you seen John Anderson's recent touring? Have you guys
No.
followed that at all?
With the band geeks?
Amazing.
Amazing.
Really?
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Wow.
First of all, he's 79 or 80 now. He's still singing in all the original keys.
Crazy,
yeah.
right?
Okay. And he's got these younger guys, probably late 30s into their 40s. So it's like hearing Yes, like the 70s version of Yes.
Man.
So he's playing those songs with all that lean, that rock lean, and he's singing in those keys. You're like, I saw him play outside of Chicago. He got a standing ovation after every song.
Wow.
It was that good.
Wow.
Note for note perfect with a band that can play all that stuff and him singing all the notes. And you're like, what?
Oh, my God.
And I go back to John, like, how do you do this? He's like, I don't know, good genetics,
I don't know.
Yeah, it's exactly. You and I.
Yeah, they're amazing.
So when did the ubiquitous record people start knocking around?
Was it 90? 1990?
Yeah, probably around that. It was
First record didn't come out in 92?
92. It got delayed a little bit because of the name. We originally...
Mighty Joe, yeah.
Right, and then it got...
Chicago fella.
Yeah,
What's that?
Mighty Joe Young. Blues.
Well, there was also the movie, which was the fake King Kong.
Right. But we had that, what was it, 6 months delayed.
Wow, that's for when you're young, that must have felt like an eternity.
Oh, we were like, our career's done. We're over.
We were literally at our art guys who was putting the record together. Mighty Joe Young, all the pictures.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks great.
All laid out in his studio.
All laid out. And
Wow.
the manager calls.
Yeah.
Oh, you got to change the name.
Yeah.
Oh, what?
See, I had a different experience. They begged me to change the name because it was so bad.
Smashing Pumpkins? It's a great name.
They hated it.
Really?
Everybody hated it. Everybody along the way tried to talk us out of it. And
Wow.
even James and Darcy didn't like the name.
Really?
My only argument for it was if you heard it once, you never forgot it.
Yeah.
Because, I beat somebody in a bar.
I thought it
And
was
say,
cool,
what's the
man.
name of
Great
your,
name.
what's the name of your band? And you tell it, and 6 months later they would be like, how's your band Smashing Pumpkins? It was like, I was like, it's good marketing, just go with it.
You know what was a cool
Great
gig,
name.
man? And I remember you guys played there. Remember English Acid?
Oh yeah, that was our debut LA gig.
Ah,
That was a
Jimmy
great-
Chamberlain has such a great story. So it's sold out, and we're at capacity, whatever it's 450, and all 4 members of REM show up, and they tell them can't get in. So
What?
they turn all of REM,
come on.
all 4 of them away from the door.
no.
So Jimmy Chamberlain shows up, and the guy's like, sold out, can't get in. And Jimmy goes, but I'm the drummer of the Pumpkins. He goes, yeah, and I'm Jesus Christ.
Really?
He couldn't get in the gig. The guy wouldn't let him in. So we're all like in the dressing room, like, where the fuck's Jimmy?
Oh,
This is the
my
biggest
man.
gig of our lives,
And he couldn't get in.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh, man.
That was one of those gigs where we had been touring in, doing the van thing. And this is like our first LA gig, English Acid. And all the intelligentsia of LA was there that night. And I know now because I've met everybody that was at that gig. And it was one of those magical nights where we were on point because I think we were so stressed out.
Right.
LA, the delay, the
Right.
vibe, the typical LA staff treating you like crap because, who cares who the you are?
yeah.
All that.
Yeah.
That whole vibe. So by the time we got up, and I think we launched into Shiva first off of Gish, it was like, all right, you. Chicago time.
Yeah.
And I just remember the audience just start going like this, like swaying, and it was like,
Yeah.
okay, here we go. We have that on tape somewhere. It's at that gig.
30-something years ago.
Cool venue,
That would have
man.
been 33 years ago.
It's a lifetime.
That's a lot of solos ago, right? You know what I mean?
Solos ago.
Solos ago.
Man.
So you're a guitar player too, but you know what I mean? The way we think in terms of leads, you know what I mean? When do I get to play the lead? When's the next lead?
And you always had wicked lead sounds.
Well,
Always great tones.
Thank you. I have this thing with guitar. See, one thing I love about your brother, I'm going to talk about him like he's not here. He's a very patient guitar player.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He doesn't rush.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He plays beautiful, languid leads.
Yes.
He can shred like the best of them, but he also, I don't have that ability. Like something goes off in my brain and I'm like, go,
Right.
go.
Gerbil on a habit trail.
Well, it's not just that. I think I feel like if I slow down, it gets boring.
Yeah.
And I'll play and I'll think, oh, that was pretty boring. And I'll hear the recording back and I'm like, I sound like I'm on methamphetamine.
But it's the aggression is what makes it great
Yeah,
along
but
with the
something's
tone.
wrong with me. I feel like.
Man, it works. Works.
Back to you. So you get the big record deal, STP. Here you come. There I am somewhere in Chicago. You guys come on. What was the sex type?
Sex type thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I watched that video. Scott's got the short hair.
Yeah.
I think, who the is this? Right?
They aired the video, so it came on. Manager calls us. We're playing Florida.
It's going to be on at midnight.
Going to be on at midnight.
Was it 120 minutes?
Yes. Comes on.
Was it with Dave with the Brad on his head?
Yes.
Remember?
Yes.
What was his name? God bless him. The sweetest guy in the world. Remember he always had the rat on his head?
Yes. Can't remember his name.
Dave something.
Yes.
English guy.
Yes. They show the video. No credits.
Remember they had the credits in the bottom left corner? So
Name of the band,
I
the
think
record
you and I
company.
were on the phone. I was like, dude, they don't have a...
That's like such a...
Oh, we're like, we're done. We're over.
We're done. We're done.
Who messes that up?
I don't know.
Kerslake? That's his name. Kevin Kerslake.
No, Josh Taft did that video, actually.
Josh Taft.
Yeah.
Okay, now I have my own selfish opinion at this point. I'm going to set that aside for a minute. What did you guys feel? Because you caught on fast, but there was this vibe, and I wasn't helping, that you guys were sort of like jumping on some bandwagon. Knowing you now, you weren't.
Right.
But at the time, that was the vibe.
Yeah.
Did you feel that?
I was jumping on whatever I could, man.
I mean,
Show me the bandwagon.
You sound good.
No, I get it, but I get it. You know what I'm saying?
I think we were just, I don't know. I've always, mind you, certain things, but I've never gotten past listening to music past 1980. So I think it was all those influences that we all grew up on.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, when we came out, I think it was a writer's, you know, a critic's way to get their piece and their claim and their stake of, I'm going to call this grunge and I'm going to call this, and, you know, I think that's really what happened in that era. And I didn't really look at it like that because I was in the like 50s clothing back then, wingtips and my hair slicked back, and I was just doing my thing, you know. We were just kind of doing our thing.
Because I always wonder how it feels on the inside because you know, bands have their own kind of social economy. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying, like how things balance, and like, you know, if you know anything about U2, like it's really Larry's band.
Yeah.
But you have to know all four guys to understand what that really means.
Right.
Even if you told somebody through a camera, oh, it's Larry's band, they don't know what that means. But when you're with all four U2 and you see when Larry talks, everybody goes like, oh, here it comes.
Yeah.
Larry has this kind of moral authority in U2.
Yes.
So I'm always curious how bands react to hyper pressure.
Yeah.
You know, for us, it crumbled our brains, you know?
Yeah. I remember Tom Carolyn, our A&R guy, he said, you know, fasten your seatbelts. And that was good advice. I always took that. But I mean, like you, I was glad to be out of Mesa Boogie.
Yeah.
And have a record deal. I mean, it was a dream come true.
Yeah, then begins this crazy rocket ride that you guys
Rocket
went on.
ride. And you know.
One of the greatest things, and I'm sure you'll agree, you know, we've all had great fortune in doing some really wonderful things throughout our career. One of the greatest is getting to make these records with Brendan.
Yeah.
My goodness, we had such a great time making these records.
Okay, but you know the Brendan O'Brien Smashing Pumpkins story. I feel like I told you.
Yes, you did.
I didn't tell you.
Yes.
I might know it, though.
I think Brendan told that story, actually.
Here's my version. So our A&R guy was Mark Williams from Georgia, which is, I think, where Brendan's from, right?
Yes.
Okay. So he was really pushing Brendan to do our post-Siamese Dream record, which became Melancholy. I've already got it in my head. Between all the drugs I'm doing and whatever else is going on, I'm going to make it.
You?
Oh, yeah.
Billy.
I'm still here.
Yeah.
We're going to make this sprawling double album because my reaction was, I'm sick of being lumped in with the grunge bands.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You would be included, by the way.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry, man.
Yes.
Waltz away from you.
Okay.
Yes.
Gracefully.
Bastards.
Call you all.
Yeah.
You can't follow me. So he insists that Brendan O'Brien come visit us somewhere on, I think, Lollapalooza.
Yeah.
So here comes Brendan on the tour bus, the classic. I'm playing him a cassette of some demos. I don't
Amazing.
remember. And Brendan says, what do you think? And I give out my whole spiel, this sprawling record and this thing, and it's, day into night and the whole thing. And he goes, well, I just did the Stone Temple Pilots record, and we did the whole thing in a week. And I said, mother, that ain't the way this band works. This band works with me, Junior, in front of a council with someone like you doing take after take.
Yeah.
Layering all the guitars. Oh, by the way, I'm also the bass player.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
God bless
some
STP.
time.
God bless S. So, but he dangled you over my head.
Gosh, I'm sorry.
Oh no. Because, but look, I just knew it wouldn't work for us. It had nothing to do with you guys. But he kind of used you as like a cudgel, to be like, well, they can do it, and I'm like, well, motherfucker, not this man.
But he wouldn't have the patience for that because Brendan's one of these guys.
Well, that's what he said.
Yeah.
To be fair, he was like,
Yeah.
I don't have that kind of patience, and I said, well, I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we set on an 8-month journey, which became that record.
Yeah.
And we found someone in Flood who was willing to go into that insanity with us.
Right.
Take after take after take to mine out this, whatever the hell I was
And
after.
see, ultimately, when you listen to it, it's brilliant.
Oh,
and
thank
no
you.
one really knows the insides of what it takes. And all those takes, it
Yeah, that's the weird thing. It's like you sit down and watch a movie. Do you really care? It either works or it doesn't, right?
Yeah.
Debut record, yours, 8 million copies.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I know.
Beautiful.
I know.
So was sex? So what was the other singles on that sex type thing?
We kind of, we had, I was doing guitar on a friend's demo in like 90. And I was coming up with these parts.
That
and like,
aerosol stuff?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I was coming up with some parts and I was like, oh man, I think I'm going to keep that.
Is this the dun dun?
That was great guitar playing, man.
Plush.
That was really good.
Thank you. Plush was that song.
Now,
So
do you know though that Scott ripped off a Pumpkin song in that song?
did he really? I didn't
In which
know
song
that.
now? In Plush?
It's I don't know the names of the
Are you
titles.
going to hit me for bread when we get out of here?
No.
I owe you money, don't I?
There's and you'll know because you know the record in the Pumpkin song "Suffer." And I feel, and a
Oh,
So I'm watching MTV somewhere in America, and that song comes on, and I hear that, and I'm like,
yeah.
I have to go back and revisit that.
yeah, good rip though.
Hopefully he
No, I
gave you some money.
We'll get to Scott in a second. I love Scott. me and him got just fine.
Yeah.
Here we are, 3 architects of the chaos of the 90s.
Yeah.
Well, we do have the rare vantage point because obviously there's plenty of posthumous criticism and critique and what shoulda, coulda, and you know it as well as I do. There are these people who do this weird winners and losers thing, like who won the 90s and who lost the 90s.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with record sales somehow.
Right.
It has to do with somebody in New York's opinion of who won.
Yeah.
Not people who actually are, by the way, still out rocking and melting faces.
Yeah.
Right? So from the inside, what was your take on the kind of the cultural part of the 90s? I was super critical, and I took a lot of heat for being really critical of the falsehood of what I thought was happening.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys never seemed to me be overtly political in that way. But sitting here now, how did you kind of perceive the social part of it all?
Well, I mean, our first single took a very hard stance. Scott took this, first-person stance of a basically a rapist. And so I don't know, man. I mean, I can appreciate artists that do take that stance and do that. For me personally, I just wanted music.
Yeah.
I just wanted music. I didn't want any controversy. I like the path of least resistance.
Mm-hmm. But did you see you guys as sort of, and I don't mean this in any dismissive way, did you see your music as somewhat escapist? You know what I mean? Like I was always very into the social engineering part of it, which is part of my great weakness, but I couldn't help but tinker.
Yeah.
But when I listen to your music as a fan, like it puts me in a good place. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel like somebody's beat me over the head with anything in particular.
I think a lot of our stuff, Scott was writing most of the lyrics. I think it was very autobiographical of what we were kind of experienced leading up to something and what we were experiencing after
So in that way, it becomes it becomes reflective of the times,
Yeah.
right? You're in it and you're talking about it, and that's what
Yeah.
resonates.
I look at it this way, I'm sure you have friends that come out and visit you on the road that don't play music.
Yeah.
They rarely listen to music, and they go out there and they go, holy, how do you do this? How do you, I'm tired after a day. Like, well, how do you do
Yeah.
this? And I think, it's one of those things where you get taught, we all got tossed into this washing machine.
Yeah.
And
But I'm saying, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but how did you feel about it all? Does that make sense? I know it's,
Yes.
I'm asking it artfully, but I'm asking you to sort of read between the lines. Like, it sort of was like my favorite word of the 90s was integrity.
right.
They use this word like a weapon.
Right. Well, we did silly things. We went on Saturday Night Live, and it was like, well, you're going to play Plush because it's your hit right now. No, we're not going to play
Featuring
Yeah.
Billy Corgan's.
Plush. Yeah, we're gonna play Naked Sunday, which was a buried track on
Yeah.
the record. We kind of, it seemed like there were times when it was like, well, that's not cool, right? It's not cool, and it was like, well, just f- it, let's just do what makes us feel good, which we ultimately always went to.
So in hindsight, looking back, because these are what they call halcyon days, do you feel like you got your message across? Does that translate? I feel like you did, so maybe I'm
think
answering
so.
your question, but do you feel like you guys got what you wanted across?
Musically, yes. Musically, yes.
Yeah, without a doubt.
There's
Took
nothing
some,
I
took
look-
some time, but yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing I would look back at and do differently as far as
Yeah.
my own playing. I still enjoy it.
Yeah.
We're still out playing these songs.
Yeah.
We did something right that we actually like to go out.
Having toured with you and listening to the crowds react to you, night after night after night, it's really beautiful. It's really beautiful to hear.
Well, when
Back
are we
at
going to
you.
do it again?
So I'll do the heartbeat. Touring with you
Yeah.
guys is like, it's the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
You guys do
Demanding,
this
but we have a good time.
awesome. It's awesome, man.
Great times.
I play with you guys every night.
demanding.
That was a great time.
I play with you guys every night for the rest of my life.
Oh, man.
Back at you, Billy.
Yeah.
That,
So-
can we just, that was really a wonderful time.
It was.
Man.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
It was.
much.
Thank you. Well, we love playing with
It
you
was.
guys.
Yeah.
And listen, as you know, because we got to give a little love to your drummer, Jimmy Chamberlain. He's nice to all the drummers. He's nice to all of them.
Yeah.
I've never seen him not be nice to a drummer.
Right.
Okay. But I hear who can play, who can't play. He has this warm spot for your drummer.
Ah,
That's
And-
so sweet,
that's
man.
great.
All he ever talks about is that guy's f***ing awesome. He
Wow.
loves your drummer.
Wow, Eric.
And he's
We
one of the
love him
only
too.
drummers I've ever heard him praise.
Wow.
Praise. Not like, oh, he's all right. Like,
Wow. That
You
would mean
know,
a lot to Eric.
Eric's got
well,
a meter,
every time I
man.
see Eric, I say, Jimmy Chamberlain loves you,
Wow.
because that's a very select club.
That is.
Because,
That is.
as you know, because we're in this game, you got Jimmy Chamberlain on the bill, and other drummers who can't play, I've seen him go up there like this with
Sure.
shaking for real.
Absolutely.
I'm not even making it up.
Absolutely.
I've seen him crush other guys' souls on the drums.
Yeah.
And when we were an indie band playing CBGBs and stuff, we'd be some snotty indie band,
Yeah.
and we get up there with our Marshall half stacks, as you know, and
Yes.
we just stomp them
Yeah.
to the f***ing ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah.
You took a lot of flack. I didn't help that with my stupidity here and there, but how did it feel to you with the kind of the criticisms that you guys got? I'm not interested in revisiting the negativity.
Yeah.
I just wonder how you sort of processed it, because everybody processes that different. I decided to go to war with everybody.
Yeah.
Scott seemed particularly sensitive to it. Is that accurate?
Very, very sensitive to it.
Yeah.
Very sensitive to it.
And but because when I got to know Scott later, I guess later in the 90s, and it seemed to really hurt him that he wasn't viewed as an artist. Does that translate you? Because you know better than I do. But that was my sense of it.
Yeah, I think so. He was really trying to create this thing,
Yeah.
his own thing.
Yeah.
And to be quite honest, I mean, most of Core was from Jim Morrison. It was that kind of
Yeah.
Morrison derivative that he
But
was.
isn't it weird? It's like at the time that stuff seems super stressful when you're young, and now you look back, it's like, well, of course he's just trying to figure it out.
Oh yeah.
Who knows who they are? I mean,
Yeah.
there are a few of them, but they tend to die pretty young.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we know their names and they're on T-shirts.
Yeah.
The rest of us kind of got to kind of bounce around.
Yeah.
And what's weird is he seemed to not always be in his identity or not know who he was at different times. But when you look back now musically, his voice is always there. It's weird.
Yeah.
So it was more of a personality kink. Does that translates the way I'm putting it?
I don't know if he was always happy with himself.
Well, that
I
translated
mean,
for sure.
that gets into a therapy session. That gets deep.
Yeah, and I'm not
with
trying
him.
to drag you through that.
No.
because-
He wasn't always happy with himself. You know,
Yeah.
I think he was really struggling to find out who he was, getting pulled into this whole thing. I mean, he was at first, you know, it was like, man, I'm taking all the heat and all this stuff, and you know, Dean and I just wanted to write the best songs we could write.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's what it was, and I couldn't be a lead singer. I couldn't be out there doing that. I'm too sensitive myself to do that.
I remember talking to him one time it was like one of these LA kind of things, and he was there with, I think, his wife, and it's like you find yourself in these weird situations in life sometimes where it's like, there's me, somewhere in the late 90s trying to convince Scott of how great he is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Was he
Yes.
listening?
I think he heard me, and I just remember the look in his eyes. It was like he was sort of intimidated by the challenge of it all. He wasn't intimidated by what I was saying.
He had a tough time with all of it, man.
Right. So the reason I come into this story in this particular moment is because I know what it's like to stand there and have people focus on you and all that. So at least I was trying to do I get it.
Yeah.
But look, you've made it through this gauntlet this far.
Yeah.
Here we are in 1999 or whatever was the year. Like, you've done it. Like, we're here. Like, you survived.
Yes.
And he was going through a period of sobriety, and that was obviously very tough on him to maintain. So it was cool to have that conversation with him. It's something I really hold on to because I at least feel like on some level I was contributing to the positive side of the equation.
Yeah.
And I'll get to where I contribute to the negative side of the equation in a moment. Did you guys kind of adapt to kind of an us versus them, or did you just not see yourself as part of that conversation?
No, I was
Just play and
it was just, we were really having a good time, man.
see where you remind me of this. Your take on it is very similar to James Iha's and the Pumpkins' take, which is like, why are you stressing out about all this stuff? You know what I mean?
Here today, gone tomorrow.
James.
Yeah.
Yeah. James seems like he would do that.
Yeah. So we have that dynamic in our band where he's like, why you got to be so uptight about this 18 things? You know what I mean? I'm like, you don't understand.
Right.
So I'm not trying to get that out of you because I wish I was more like you in that regard, where you can just be like, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
I
man.
think there were far more positives happening than negatives.
Well, that's the beautiful part.
Yeah.
And I saw that with you, particularly on tour, is you guys won.
Yeah.
You won.
I mean,
It doesn't really what anybody thinks, including me. You guys won. You got this stack of music. You're still out there crushing it. It's like you won. Like, that's the thing I respect.
Yeah.
Because we can go back in time machines and say, 1993, what were you thinking? You know what I mean?
Right.
That's all on the fly. It's like going to a quarterback. Like, why didn't you hit the open receiver? And it's like, well, the guy who was 400 pounds was barreling down on my head. And my ankle hurt. You know what I mean? It's like,
And we're in our early 20s.
That's what I mean.
Wow. A lot to be thrown at you.
My making it about myself again. And I hope you remember this moment because it's something that I really hold dear to my heart. You guys put out, now this is one of those, this sounds like a Scott title, Tiny Music Songs from the Vatican. Is that your title?
Well, I kind of came up with this thing, Vatican Gift Shop. I thought it was such a great play on words and kind of just a,
It is.
Vatican Gift
Great
Shop.
title.
And I called Scott, and I was driving down the 101, and he was like, oh my gosh, I love that. And this is well before we did the record.
Yeah.
But when we were at the house making the record, we had those little magnets with all words
Okay.
on the
Words with-
refrigerator. Yeah. And I just saw these words, and these two words popped out, Tiny Music. I was like, I got the name of the record. Tiny Music. And we were like, this is great. But Scott really wanted to use, so it became Tiny Music.
So it's
Songs from
both
the
your
Vatican Gift
both
Shop.
your titles.
Yeah.
Well, And I was like, dude, can't we just call it Tiny Music? And he was like, really? When Scott
I'm
has
with
something
Scott-
in
I'm
his
with
head,
Scott on that one.
back me up
Yeah.
here,
I
Robert.
don't have a vote, but I love Songs from the Vatican is
Yeah, Songs from the Vatican gift shop.
Yeah. So it was kind of two things I came up with. But, the first one, Tiny Music, was thanks
So
to the
was that your third album?
Third
Yes.
Okay.
Third album.
So that album came out. That album blew my mind. And up to that point, I wasn't an STP fan. You know what I mean? Looking back now, I realize how stupid I was being. It was more kind of weird jealousy. But when that album, no, it was true because, look, you understand the competition at that level, particularly at that time, was fierce.
Sure. Like it always has been with other musicians.
I can't speak for other eras. You know what I mean? I can't, look, you talk to Sam of Sam and Dave, you know what I mean? He was competing against Aretha Franklin and Otis Redding and, you know what I mean? Like stone cold legends. So,
I think of that moment when, Hendrix came to England and,
Sure.
Clapton and Jeff Beck and
Yeah, and they're all
Pete
sitting there
Town,
and go, here we
and
go.
they're
Yeah.
like, we're out of a job.
Yeah. I think to be fair to us, we all had those horrible contracts where they could drop us at any time and we were playing basically a non-commercial form of music.
Yes.
Like our music at that time it wasn't mainstream. They created radio stations to play our music.
Right.
We didn't really
we didn't set out to write hits.
If you were echoing the Bunnymen, you played the Aragon Ballroom in Chicago and you were winning. You weren't playing the arena.
Right.
And if you were like, that was like a miracle.
Yeah.
The Police or something like, they crossed over into pop and Sting and all the whole thing. That was, if you were an alternative world, that wasn't even within reach.
Yeah.
And when those dynamics change with Nevermind, okay, now we're all in that weird pressure. So I might just be rationalized. Maybe I was just jealous because you guys are good. But anyway, so that album came out. I don't remember why I had it, but I was living in New York at the time. And it was one of those things where I had the CD in, and I remember listening to the record, and I thought, wow, this is fucking great. I was like, I didn't know these guys could do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I became an STP fan.
On Tiny Music.
Yes.
Well, it's so interesting because that record is so bare bones.
But that was what it was. First of all, I was moving into more production. So in my mind, to be more sparse, that takes guts. Then to wrap it with this kind of new wave-ish, I don't know if you take it that way.
Yeah.
A little bit of Cheap Trick, a little bit of whatever, Cars.
Yeah.
Is that fair? I mean,
Yeah, that's all in the mix.
Yeah. Is that fair? I'm sorry, I don't want to.
Yeah, no. Yeah, a little bit, I guess. I mean, sadly, I missed that new wave thing. I have a much greater appreciation for it right now.
What's your take on that record?
I got to think what's even on it. I mean,
It was a Big Bang Baby.
Yeah,
Big Bang Baby.
I was going to mention that song. So Robert and Scott wrote that, and that's just the excitement of Robert coming to be like, check this out.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, that's great. And I was tripping on that record.
Tripping. Yeah.
And Eric kind of wrote most of that musically, and that was such a. And
Great.
we
Just
made
great.
that record, and it's the memories that I've made while recording
Sure.
the songs. We made that record out in the beautiful Santa Ynez Valley in this massive house. We all lived there and wrote and recorded, and it was fun.
I look at it this way. When you're young and you go into a studio, you're like a little overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, it's supposed to sound a certain way because it's a big studio and it's a producer and everything. And, I think Purple was made in Atlanta in a smaller studio that was a little more, this is kind of a house, but and then the third record was a house. So I think sonically, the atmosphere kind of dictated how the record was going to sound.
Yeah.
I mean, Brendan brought in a Mackie board. I mean, that was, it was recorded on a Mackie board.
Well,
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like it.
Yeah.
We really utilized the rooms too, and So I Know was we had the amps out in the foyer to capture that reverb. It was all natural, like we were cutting drums in like a cedar lined closet and just
Lady Picture Show.
silly stuff.
Yeah. Well, all I know is that record blew my mind. And as the story goes, I saw you guys out somewhere in New York, I think it was.
Oh.
And we were somewhere at the same restaurant, and I saw you guys sitting over there, and I thought, I need to go over there and apologize.
I remember this.
And I came walking up and I saw you guys look at me like, oh God, no.
No, stop.
Well,
Stop.
to be fair, I'd been publicly critical of you because in my estimation, I was first wave and you guys weren't the first wave. It was so stupid. And I sat down. I said, can I sit down? You said, sure. You guys were super nice as you are. And I said, I have to apologize. You guys are fucking great. And I'm a huge fan now. And you won me over. And I'm sorry for anything I've said. And we've been friendly ever since.
Absolutely.
Because you guys are fucking great.
Well, right back at you.
Man.
Thank you. But I love that story because your music won me over. You see what I'm saying? Like your music trumped my own bias. I didn't want you to win. You understand?
Yeah,
I wanted you to fail.
Sure.
Because one less guy I got to shove out of the way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I love that I was able to go, you know what? These guys can belong. And
Thank you,
you've
Bill.
proven that.
Thank you.
But it was that, for me, was that moment where I was like, so now when I go back and listen to Sex Type Thing or whatever, I'm like, this is a great song. You know what I mean? I'm not hearing it through the bias of like, oh no, what's this? You know, another guy on the battlefield, I have to.
There is a difference between the musician brain and the listener brain.
Again, to be fair to James Eha was always the guy that when we would play with other bands, you know, he'd go over there with the beer and talk to them and be friendly. And I'd be like,
he's a sweetheart.
Talk to them, you know?
Yeah.
He was always more like, sort of like, he didn't understand the combative aspect of my brain.
Right.
I feel like you guys have been put on the block 18,000 times about Scott's issues. So when I set up this part of our conversation, I'm not here to find fresh stuff or tell me the story that'll break her heart. It's more of like, I'm more interested in your inner navigation because I think it ultimately gets to what I want to get to, which is why we're all still here.
Yeah.
You know, in a perfect world, everybody would be alive. All of them. Kurt, all of them. Like we'd all be still rocking and we'd all be arguing about who put out the last best album. But that's not life. Right? That's just not life. So, you know, in my band, we had 2 drug addicts. So I know that vibe. I know you guys had your struggles. Again, I'm not trying to do the therapy version of it.
Not at all.
But when was the first time in that, you know, you started 89? Is that accurate? Yeah. So from 89 until whenever it went south the first time, when's the first time you're standing there somewhere going, how do I navigate this insanity?
Wow. I think it was after doing that 93 tour with the Butthole Surfers.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
I think that's when Scott kind of took a turn.
Yeah.
And was experiencing, I mean, look at, you know, it's like going out on the road is like joining the circus. And you go out there.
And the Butthole Surfers was literally a traveling circus.
Gibby was his own circus.
Yeah.
But Scott hung out with Gibby. And you know, I think he was introduced to some things there that maybe tickled his addictive fancy.
Yeah.
You know?
So that's the first time you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah, it was early on. And I think, believe it or not, and we don't say this a lot, but, you know, a few of those records were almost not finished. And it was a sit down with Brendan going, what are we doing, guys? What are we doing here? Are we going to finish this record? I mean, from Purple to...
It must, because I've been there too. It must have just broke your heart. Here you are.
It did.
You're rocking. You got a great band.
Yeah.
You got the world in front of you. And it's like, and we're dealing with this.
Your own guy.
I found the hardest thing in dealing with addicts, and my father was an addict as well, is there's no logic.
No logic.
You keep trying to solve a problem logically, and there's no logic.
And you drive yourself crazy.
Oh, you drive yourself absolutely crazy. Yeah. That was the greatest thing about me going to Al-Anon, if you've ever been to Al-Anon, was understanding like, no, this is actually what everybody goes through. This doubting thing of their guilt, or why can't I fix them, or why can't I say the magical words?
Yes.
You know, I'm a wordsmith, right? Like, why can't I just tell you this magical thing that'll make it all go away?
Yeah.
And you know, where Jimmy's addictions were prevalent in the first half of the 90s with the band, to the point where he ended up leaving the band, then Darcy's addictions became part of the story for this. So it was like we sort of relived it with another person.
Yeah.
And
Tough.
And then when Jimmy came back, then we had the twin version.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? So I'm uber empathetic to what it feels like to stand there.
Yeah.
And you got the record guy over here, you got the manager over here, you got somebody's stupid girlfriend over here.
Yeah.
You know, in our case, you know, one of our band members once brought their drug dealer on tour.
Yeah.
The drug dealer was on the tour
Yeah.
because, well,
Sounds logical.
it's logical. It's easier to get the drugs.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have to go out and score. They're right here.
Right.
What's to worry about? So let's turn it to this because you guys are one of the great brother duos. You know what I mean? There's only been so many, but you are. You know what I mean? Did that come into play? Like you're being brothers? You know what I mean? Because like when would go on in my band, it's not like, you know, James is not my cousin.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's
We
my-
had
he's
each
my
other's
spirit-
backs, man, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
We had each other's backs. And, you know, we can include Eric in that, too.
Yeah.
It really...
We completed records.
Yeah.
We finished records.
Yeah.
You know, here we are. Gosh, what's it been? 30? When did we start doing this? 1989?
Yeah.
So how long has it been? 30 some years, whatever?
I'm horrible at math.
But, you know, I don't know the dynamic within your band, but I mean, Robert and Eric and I, we still have this love and adoration and respect for one another. You know, it's not like, oh, it's like, you know, I don't want to.
Well, I don't mean to be as trite as this, but maybe that forged something with you three that you wouldn't have otherwise. Let's look at the good part of the bad part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe.
I can
Maybe.
speak for my relationship with Jimmy Chamberlain that all those adversities have everything to do with us having such a strong relationship now. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys have been through a lot.
the ability to forgive, the ability to, like, let's just get on to the next song, you know,
Yeah.
let's not pretend,
Yeah.
but there's other music to make, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what I love about what you guys are doing is the way you solve the problem is just keep playing and keep making music.
That's important.
I'm curious because, look, we all know how talented Scott was. And again, you know, like these great singers, the adaptability. So he leaves, there's all that. Now he's got Velvet Revolver. That must have been hard. You tell me, but it must have been hard to watch your guy, and he was your guy, go out and do it with somebody else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not saying you were rooting against him, but it's
No.
got to be hard because you're thinking, well, he should be here. Did you feel that way, or am I imagining that?
I think at that point I was he was not in a good place.
So it was almost like,
Like,
good, like, I'll take a break.
take a break.
Yeah.
Take a break
Yeah.
at that point. I remember driving down Melrose, and he was not in a good place before that. And I remember stopping at a stoplight and seeing what looked like a kid going across the street on a skateboard. And I'm like, that was Scott.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He was living in some apartment
Yeah.
like off of Melrose, and it got to that point. I was like,
Yeah.
that was Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what apartment you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I certainly looked at it like, again, my perspective as an outside person who's interested. It was interesting to me that his talents were applicable in a, like, let's call it even a heavier genre.
Yeah.
It's not that you guys aren't heavy, but you're not like riffy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was cool to see him make that transition and see this other kind of crowd come forward and kind of start to really celebrate what a great singer he was.
Yeah. Yeah.
That wasn't the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. I think it was a great opportunity for him.
Right.
And it worked out well for him.
So I know what this feels like, but I want to hear it from you. Okay, you're sitting there, now you're having this meeting, some years have gone by. Should we open this door and do this all over again?
Yeah.
What was that hard for you, or was it you feel like, okay, let's give it another try? Was it positive, or was it like trepidatious, to use the fancy word?
It was probably, yeah, there was definitely some trepidation, but
There was a lot of history there,
yeah.
Yeah.
a lot of history. And I think we stepped into it lightly.
Right.
That first day of rehearsal.
Was that the first day? I know what day
That
you're
was the
talking
first day of
about.
rehearsal. Yeah, he didn't show up the first day of rehearsal in very good health.
Mm.
And we're like, all right. So we packed this up and
We're right back to it. Yeah.
yeah. And it brought up, I think that day was, for me, it was like, it brought up a lot of ghosts and a lot of things. And
I'm having anxiety because I know that feeling.
you know the feeling.
Yeah.
And I remember just going, you know what? I'm f***ing going home.
Mm.
You know what? I'm going home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you did put it back together.
Put it back together.
And it was stayed together for a while.
It was good for.
We did a record.
Yeah.
That was
yeah.
Was it also called just Stone Temple Pilots?
It was eponymous. Yes, it was.
self-titled.
There's like 4 just called Stone Temple Pilots. I don't know where to go with this because I'm not interested in the dirt stuff. You know what I mean? It's like it's not.
I'll
that
give it to you, baby. Ask me anything.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Don't tell me. No, because I think. Look, we're all in the clickbait world, right?
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck about the clickbait. To me, it's the fact that you guys are still playing. And where talking about these things is useful is to give people some context of why we endure, why we carry on, why we persist. You know?
We love music, man.
Well, that's
love
obvious. To me, that's
making
obvious.
music.
That's obvious.
Man, look, for me, you're only as good as those who are around you, right?
Mm-hmm.
These guys make me look really good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love, what Robert brings to the table and Eric and Jeff. I love it.
Yeah.
You don't really think about that often, but then when you get in rehearsal, because we rehearse, when we do shows and tours, we go over to Eric's garage and we rehearse in his garage. But he's on a little amp and I'm on a little amp and Jeff's on this little, PA system, and we're not
You're not full volume.
We're not full volume. But out of that, I can still appreciate, I can appreciate the quality of our friendship and our chemistry.
Yeah.
And the songs. And that.
Sorry to interrupt. How blessed are we to have written some of these songs?
Man.
It's amazing.
What amazing thing.
I'm sure you get teary sometimes when you're
amazing.
rehearsing.
It's amazing. You're like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, when you guys go into 1979, the place goes nuts.
Oh, man.
It's like, wow.
Yeah.
My daughter, who's 5 years old, she'll say to me, Daddy, were you young when you wrote 1979? Were you 5 years old when you wrote 79? I'm like, almost, yeah.
That's funny.
Is there a message at this point that you want people to understand about your band? Like, what's the thing that comes to mind?
I think
my brain doesn't work this way.
I know. I love putting you on the spot.
I know you.
Yeah, right. I think
See, that's why you're a good guitar player.
Right.
Thank you.
I think we've all formed our own version of immortality.
Okay.
Is that safe to say?
Yeah.
I think we've all, and I think
That's well said.
and I think, the songs you've written, the songs we've written, and you realize that. You don't always realize that.
Yeah.
But when you're together as a band, or you're, like I said, rehearsing, or you're playing out, you look out and you simply go, holy man, this is, we accomplished something.
Yeah,
here.
and to back you up on that, when you play, I still see you, like I still see the same you that I saw in 94 and 98 and 2002.
Same with you.
Oh, well, God bless you
Same
for
with
that.
you.
I'm not so sure about that, but
Oh man, you.
but what I'm saying is that your joy of playing, I see it. You know what I mean? And I know you as a man too. That helps. But I mean, I see it.
Yeah.
You don't have a fake bone in your body.
No.
In fact, you had a heart attack on stage and kept playing.
He did. Oh my gosh, he did. He gave me a look from across the stage. We were in the middle of Wicked Garden. And he gave me a look like, meet me at the drums. And I walked over and he goes, I think I'm having a heart attack. I'm like, I look at it like 5,000.
Do we stop?
I look at it like 5,000 people. I'm like, that's what I said. Should we stop? He's like, no, just keep going.
The show must go on.
Yeah, well, there's something sort of beautiful about wanting to die on stage, you know?
Well, now when I get on stage, I have a little bit of PTSD that I'm
Yeah.
going to drop dead in front of a crowd of
Yeah.
people.
Did Robert tell you about our 57 number?
Well, I know that your father died
57.
at 7. You almost died at 57.
I had a double bypass at 57. Quadruple.
He knew about this.
Quintuple. Sorry, I said quadruple. I left one out. All at 57.
Yeah.
That's the card we were dealt, man.
Yeah. Well, I'm 57. You just made me realize. I said something, I don't know if you would remember it, but when we toured together, I had this beautiful moment where I was like, wow, these guys got like another 20 years if they want it.
Wow.
Do you feel that?
I think so. Musically, maybe. Hopefully health-wise.
I guess I'm talking just strictly musically.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're in this weird thing now. I guess we should thank the Rolling Stones, but we're in this weird thing now where people will still want to see us play
Crazy.
way late in this game.
Yeah.
So if we're on that timeline, we might only be about 2/3 of the way through it,
Yeah.
which is hard to understand
Yeah.
given the adversities that you've experienced, right? And the heartaches. It blows my mind sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
I had this epiphany recently where I was working on the new Pumpkins record, and we decided to kind of I tried to recreate the same dynamics that created the early 90s records in the band.
Yeah.
I thought it would be novel to go back to the same brain space,
Yeah.
and I did and I didn't, and hopefully when you get to hear the record, you'll hear the good and the bad in that. But I had this moment of like, okay, I'm kind of back here playing in this sandbox one more time, and I'm thinking about my age, and my children are very young, 8 and 5, so that's part of the equation.
Yeah.
And I had this moment of like, you know, I could actually start over, and I still have 20 years of start over.
Yeah.
Like I could make a music that I've never made before, that I don't know anything about, kind of like what you're doing with your solo music. It's like, I think it's important for us to remind each other as friends that the public's expectation of who we are or who we were is not as valuable as our own.
Well said.
And I think it's really cool, as someone who admires both of you greatly and admires you as men too.
Back at you, Billy.
Thank you.
Yes.
That when I stand there and watch you guys play, I'm like, these guys got so much more music left in them. That's so f***ing cool. It's awesome. That should be our story. Like if that's our epitaph, right?
Yeah.
That should be our story.
Yeah.
Like they rocked till the end, you know?
Died trying.
Yeah, but you know what? We've all grown up in, like, let's call it the baby boomer version, right?
Yeah.
You technically qualify as a baby
Absolutely.
boomer child, right? Latchkey, do you have that stuff? Were you latchkey kids?
Absolutely.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
We grew up, you know, Gilligan's Island, and, you know, television was life was television.
Absolutely.
And, you know, and then, you know, we run into, you know, let's call it the 90s version of the record business.
Yeah.
Which was too old to be fresh, and basically we were on the edge of the dying decade of it, but we didn't know that.
Yeah.
Here comes AOL, and here comes Napster, and all the things that cost us $1 gazillion.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't take that into account when we were being treated bad in the early 2000s about some of those dynamics.
Yeah.
We didn't make that second round of Pink Floyd money when they introduced CDs.
Yeah.
We lost all that bread.
Yeah.
And Gen X doesn't have a lot of statistical numbers to back it up. So even if we're popular with our own generation, there aren't enough people to actually go out and vote.
Yeah.
So for us to persist, and we're musical brands, right? For us to persist and be making music, to me, that's the victory, you see. Which is why I wanted to talk about all these things within that context.
There's so many things that you have to boil down. And isn't that life as you get older and mature? It all boils down and comes down to this little diamond that you have to kind of appreciate.
But isn't it crazy that you had it from the beginning, but you didn't know you had it? It's like the Robert Coelho book, Alchemist. That's kind of the whole thing.
A lot of sand in there, and a lot of dirt, and a lot of other stones. And then
if any part of my heart hurts, it's hard maybe for people to understand this translation. I hope you understand this translation. If any part of my heart hurts beyond just the obvious sorrow of us losing people that we loved and admired, your guy Scott being one of them, Chester too. It's this notion that everybody should still be here for the party. Like the party's not over.
Yeah.
You could argue in many ways the party's just getting started.
Yeah.
And it's important for us to remind us as Gen Xers to not let even the current social idea of what it means to age gracefully or whatever, to limit our capability.
Yeah.
And I think you guys have always led with music, which is your great strength. It's
Yeah.
like, it's in the riff, like take it or leave it.
Yeah.
We're going to have a good fucking time.
Yeah.
And we're going to rock hard, you know?
I think the problem there with everyone that's not here anymore, it never was a party for them.
Maybe.
I think that's what's been so appealing for both myself and Robert is, you know, I don't know what it's like for you, but, you know, we're really within this net. We'll call it what you want. We're really within this net of, you know, people know us for STP. And, you know, if you listen to lessons learned or stuff I've done outside, it's really nothing like it.
Yeah.
And that's what's been so fulfilling to go out and really express ourselves musically. That is, you know, we've been within us for our whole lives, you know.
Yeah. You guys have done a wonderful job, I think, of balancing your responsibilities to, you know, STP worldwide, you know, the brand. But then you're always doing all this cool. I see you guys, you're playing with people like, how'd you, I know you tell me some of these things, I can't remember who, but you've done like all these like, oh yeah, I was playing with so-and-so, and who are some of those people you've been playing with recently? Like, you do the coolest, no one calls me. Like, so it's super, I'm jealous again.
Well, I think it's always been a goal to interact with the people that influence.
Get to the good part, come on.
You know, just different people.
Drop some names here, because every time you tell me this stuff, I'm like, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's just, you know, I played in Hollywood Vampires for a little bit. That was fun. You know,
But I'll see you on stage jamming with, like, I don't know,
Billy Gibbons, or Gary Wright, or just stuff like that.
Yeah, you did stuff with the Dreamweaver, Gary Wright. Did he pass away recently?
He did.
Yeah, God bless him.
So he was a neighbor of mine. He was kind of like a dad to me.
Yeah, what a great artist.
Oh God, he was just, you know, he got to hang with the Beatles, and he's, you know, it's just interesting to me to listen to the music that's inspired me and know he was a part of that. You know, that Harry Nilsson's version of the Badfinger song, Can't Live Without You. He played the piano on that.
I had no idea.
That's Gary on that, and played on.
See, that's why. That's why I started the show, and that was my pitch to the people I'm doing the show with. Was I want to talk to people that I admire.
Yeah.
And talk about stuff that we admire as musicians or as artists, not the public take.
Right.
The public take on somebody like Gary Wright would be like, "Oh, he had that one great song." It's like,
Dreamweaver.
No, yeah. It's like, no, you don't really get it.
Right.
You don't really get it.
No, he was deep, and did a lot of going to India and meditating with George Harrison, and very good friends with George, and he was I miss him. Yeah, I miss him.
Yeah.
Miss him.
So anyway, I wish I had your life. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, last thing. New STP rock roll record somewhere in there. It's been a few years now.
Maybe.
It's been a
Am I
few
crazy?
years.
It's been like 4 years.
Around.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
What would be your reservation for not doing a record?
Dean's working on a record right now, and we're both working on our own records right now.
Right.
I think that's.
I'm not trying to be crass, but like
no.
Because every time I go into a Pumpkins record, I go, "Oh, here we go." Like I need a.
There's a lot of history there.
You could do a Bewitched, just twinkle your nose and it's done.
That's why I love the concept of AI. You know what I mean? This idea is just like, hey, sad, mournful, some hopeful D7 chords. 42 minutes.
That's
sounds
funny.
like, sounds like with a dash of Plush by STP,
That's
and
funny, man.
Okay, I'm gonna go read my arty book now.
Man.
But I'm saying, is there a reservation? Let me ask this, because sometimes when I get it's usually at the beginning of a process of making a new Pumpkins record. There's that voice in me that says, nobody's going to care. And that's that nagging thing of like, oh God, do I have to go through this again?
Are you trying too hard?
Yeah, are you trying too hard? Are you trying to hang on to your youth way too long? Whatever. It's all those inner doubtful voices that artists have about, let's call it the futility of our exercise. Is that in your equation at all? Okay, let me give you one little story. Yeah. This is, by the way, I'm not trying to talk about myself. I want to encourage you by talking about myself. So when James came back to the band circa 2017-18, I took James and Jimmy out to lunch and I said, hey, I want to do this sprawling concept record. It'll be a sequel to Machina and Melancholy. I gave them the concept about a guy exiled into space, and they basically said no.
Oh, shoot.
Wow. It worked out in a way because it would probably be too much to put on the situation with us trying to kind of get our act back together, figuratively.
Yeah.
So, pandemic, I'm sitting there bored out of my mind. I spent 3 weeks making a 1965 kind of psychedelic record, which I think you guys would enjoy. Some groovy bass on there.
Yeah.
And then I got to the end of that and I was like, I'm just going to do the concept record and I'm not going to ask for permission. So, did this record, 33 songs, crazy sprawling concept. I called it a rock opera, knowing that somebody was going to have a problem with me using the term rock opera. Just put it out there. Like to say, lead with your chin, right?
Yeah.
Since that, our inner dynamic has changed and our outer fortune has changed. I'm not saying it's because of that record. I'm saying it seemed to sort of shift some energy with us. Mm. So I guess my encouragement to you is that if you do what you do, you might be surprised. There's something about the commitment to the insanity of the thing that makes no sense that is appealing particularly to young people. It resonates, this is my version, it resonates to them as that's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
That's what rebellion feels like. Well, I'm going to do the thing that makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
And as I've told you, not everybody in my group always agrees with my excess, including managers and all that, like why? In 1990, I got pulled aside by a manager at the time, this is before Gish, and he said, just write the pretty songs. No one wants to hear your loud nasal rock songs. He said, you're really good at writing pretty songs and the girls will love it. Just stick to that.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. What I'm saying is you guys are really good at what you do, so just keep doing what you're doing.
So were you, Billy Corgan.
Yes.
No, I get the pause, but it's something about wading into the deep water of it that's sort of interesting.
Yeah.
We have a lot to be so grateful for, man. Like, we get to do this. This far along, too.
But think of the guitar tones. Just think of the...
I do.
Think of the tunings.
I do.
I know you do. I know, like me, you lay your head on your pillow, you're like, well, I only... Right?
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to say, I feel there's this shift going where there's an openness to our musical generation starting to take chances again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
People want to see some leadership and like maybe a little sense of swagger. If we're not pop, we're not pop. We're not shiny, we're not perfect. What is it that they really want from us beyond catalog, beyond greatest hits? Like, what would you have left to offer? The one thing you have left to offer, and I'm saying this to you pointedly, is the one thing you have to offer is what actual rebellion looks and feels and smells like because you were there. You saw it both as an observer in the clubs, whether you were watching Black Flag or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You were there. Like, you saw it. You knew the people, you felt the vibe, right? There's this great quote in Bob Dylan's book, Chronicles, where he says, I would go in and work with these producers and they would want Bob Dylan's 66 and I would try to give it to him and I just couldn't.
Yeah.
So I sort of finally addressed the existential question for myself. Okay, give me Billy Corgan 1992. Go.
Go.
Okay? 57-year-old me picks up a guitar and goes, okay, I know how to play like that. I could play like that all day. I made that. Up here is different.
Yeah.
Don't think the same, not doing the same drugs, not chasing the same bad goth girls. can't recreate the circumstance, but I can certainly put myself back in the moment of discovery
Right.
for why now, if I was in that same situation with that same riff, I would go right. Why, when I was that age, did I go left?
Yeah.
And the key factor was boredom. A restless sense of boredom. I didn't have a minute to be indulgent. And if I did, I believed in the indulgence.
Yeah.
For example, a song you would know from us, Cherub Rock.
Yeah.
The intro was 1 minute long. Who made the video? Kevin Kerslake on a mountain in San Francisco. Of course, the record company comes and goes, hey, Cherub Rock's 5 minutes long. Can you guys cut that intro? And I said, go f*** yourself.
Yeah.
And you know where we got that intro from? We stole it from Bytor and the Snow Dog from Rush. And I was like, no fucking way, that intro is fucking great. F*** yourself. And they go, well, MTV. I said, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Who was that guy that was willing to stand up against the record company, MTV, and say, I don't give a shit. I like the way my song goes. So try to get back to a space of asymmetrical, I'm going to chase excitement. So the one thing I did for myself was I refused to add any vocals or any melodies to any of the songs until all the songs were recorded. I'd never done that.
Wow.
So my only information was sit back on the couch and go, that track rocks. Or that track takes me somewhere.
Right.
Now that I believe in the track, now I have to write a vocal and a melody that lives up to this. So where it's difficult for us, I think, is if you listen to a lot of young people's production, because of the way they work within technology, they're doing that restless version of things.
Yeah.
They're not playing like, oh, I can't, the guitar's in E. I can't change the guitar tuning here. That's, we think linearly as rock musicians. So it's getting into that uncomfortable space of like mashing things together, putting riffs together that don't belong. It's not to chase something as much to sort of reapproach, like, at what point did I stop using excitement as my guide and start using my intellect or my desire to sound like, I don't know, Free in 74, because I like the guitar sound. Or you start to become more of a master of your domain, but there can be a tendency to get too kind of into your own trip. You start losing the tactile thing of like, I need to make people excited first.
Yeah.
It's like the art trip, right?
Yeah.
Well, here we are.
Here we are.
Let's not die.
Let's not.
No.
Let's live forever.
No.
God bless you guys. Thanks.
Thank you, Billy.
Thank you, Billy.
Namaste, San Diego.
Namaste.